Let me tell you something, my friend. Excuses are just well-dressed lies. Lies you tell yourself. Lies that sound like truth because they come from your own voice. But don't be fooled. Excuses are comfort wrapped in chains. They keep you warm while they keep you stuck. You say, I'm too busy. No, you're too distracted. You say, I'm not ready. No, you're scared. You say, it's not the right time. No, you just don't want it bad enough. Excuses feel good for a moment, but they cost you. They cost you the life you could have lived, the goals you could have hit, the pride you could have felt. Every excuse is a silent agreement to stay the same. And the truth is, you're better than that. You don't need more time. You don't need better circumstances. You need to get honest, brutally honest, and say, no more lying to myself. This message, this video, is not for the faint of heart. It's for those ready to face the man or woman in the mirror and say, no more excuses. I take full responsibility. Because once you do that, oh, the places you can go. So I ask you to stay with me all the way through. Let this be the day you stop making excuses and start making progress. Because excuses are lies, and truth will set you free. The real cost of excuses, what they steal from you. Let's begin with a hard truth, my friend. Every excuse has a price tag. You may not see it written in dollars or hours, but it's there, and it's expensive. Excuses are not harmless. No, they are thieves. Smooth, silent thieves. They don't just take what you have. They rob you of what you could have had. That's what makes them so dangerous. You think you're protecting yourself when you make excuses, but all the while you're giving away your time, your energy, your self-respect, and even your dreams. Let me say it like this. An excuse is the tax you pay for not being honest with yourself. You tell yourself, I don't have enough time, and time walks away from you. You say, I'll start tomorrow, and today slips right through your fingers. You say, I don't know how, and suddenly, you stop learning. You stop growing. That's the real cost of excuses. It's not just the moment you lose, it's the momentum. And when momentum is gone, guess what? Progress stops. And when progress stops, so does everything else. Now, I'm not here to judge you. I've made my fair share of excuses in life. I've told myself, I'll wait till I'm ready, more times than I can count. But then I realized something. Excuses don't delay failure. They guarantee it. Let me ask you a question. If you knew that every excuse you made took a piece out of your future, would you still make them? Let's say you have a goal, to get in shape. You want to feel strong, confident, alive. But then the excuses start to whisper, I'm too tired. It's too cold outside. I'll go tomorrow. And one day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes a month. A month becomes a year. And suddenly, nothing's changed, except your frustration. That's the toll. That's the cost. You're not just giving up a workout. You're giving up your identity. The strong version of you. The committed version. The person you know you can be. That person gets buried underneath all the excuses you allowed. Let me be even more direct with you. Excuses steal confidence. They steal opportunity. They steal momentum. They steal self-worth. Because every time you lie to yourself, and yes, that's what an excuse is, you chip away at your own belief. And belief, my friend, is your fuel. Once that belief is gone, you're not just stalled. You're stranded. You ever wonder why some people seem to rise no matter what? It's not because they're luckier. It's not because they're smarter. It's because they've decided firmly, clearly, not to tolerate their own excuses. And if you want change, you must do the same. You must become the kind of person who doesn't give excuses a home. So here's what I want you to do. Real simple. Step 1. Identify your top 3 excuses. Be honest. You know what they are. The ones that keep showing up when it's time to take action. Write them down. Not someday. Not later. Now step 2. For each excuse, ask yourself, what has this stolen from me? What moment? What result? What relationship? What opportunity? You might be surprised at the cost. But that surprise, that discomfort, that's good. Because it's where change begins. Now hear me clearly. You don't get rid of excuses by accident. You get rid of excuses by decision. A firm, no turning back kind of decision. Say it with me right now. No more lies. No more delays. I take back what excuses have stolen from me. Say it again, louder this time, with conviction. Because that, my friend, is the voice of a new person. Someone who's no longer willing to live below their potential. Now don't think this means you'll never feel fear again, or hesitation, or doubt. You will. But the difference is, You won't let those feelings become your story. You won't turn them into excuses. You'll feel the fear and move anyway. You'll feel the doubt and act anyway. You'll feel the discomfort and rise anyway. And that, my friend, is when you become dangerous, not to others, but to every excuse you've ever made. Because when you decide to stop lying to yourself, you start building a life based on truth, on discipline, on action. And that life, that's the one worth living. So let this be the moment you draw the line. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because the longer you wait, the more you pay. Excuses are expensive, and you've paid enough. It's time to rise. Excuses sound best to the one who makes them. Let's face it, we're good at talking ourselves into mediocrity. In fact, no one sells us short better than we sell ourselves. We create a story, we dress it up, make it sound noble, intelligent, even practical, and then we believe it. We don't just make excuses, we buy them, wholesale, and we convince ourselves they're reasonable. But let me tell you something, my friend, excuses sound best to the one who makes them. To everyone else, they sound like what they are. Noise. Just noise. The static between you and the life you were meant to live. We say things like, I didn't have time. I tried, but it didn't work out. It's just not the right season of my life. And here's the kicker. You can find someone who'll nod along with your story. Someone who'll say, you're right. You've had it hard. You deserve a break. But guess what? Their approval doesn't improve your results. The problem with excuses isn't just that they're lies. It's that they're comfortable lies. They make us feel safe while keeping us stuck. You see, most people don't fail because they didn't have what it takes. No, they fail because they told themselves a story, and then they became a character in it. They wrote a script where success wasn't possible, and then they followed it like a loyal actor. I'm not good with money. I've never been a morning person. I've just got bad luck. Sound familiar? That's not truth. That's identity shaped by excuses. Now let me ask you this. If someone else spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you let them? Would you let someone else tell you, you can't do it? Would you let someone else say, you're not enough? Of course not. So why let it slide when you say it? Here's what I learned. Your excuses are not a reflection of reality. They're a reflection of your mindset. And the good news, mindsets can change. You're not stuck unless you say so. But first, you've got to catch yourself in the act. Excuses are sneaky. They wear disguises. Let me show you a few of their favorite costumes. 1. The someday. Excuse you say, I'll do it later. But later becomes never. And someday isn't on the calendar. Someday is the busiest day of the week, and it never gets anything done. 2. The I'm not ready. Excuse you wait for confidence. You wait for clarity. You wait for perfection. And while you wait, your dreams move on without you. Let me tell you, you don't get ready. You become ready by doing. 3. The I tried. Excuse trying isn't doing. Trying is what you say when you didn't commit. I tried is often a polite way of saying, I gave up early. You see, excuses aren't just statements. They're permission slips. They give you permission to not change, not risk, not grow. But here's the truth that changed my life. You can't talk yourself into greatness and talk yourself out of responsibility at the same time. You've got to choose. So here's what I recommend. A little exercise I call excuse interrogation. Next time you catch yourself giving an excuse, stop and ask, is this really true? Or is it just comfortable? Would someone I admire say this? And what's this excuse costing me right now? See, when you expose an excuse to the light of truth, it starts to lose its power. Let me give you an example. A man once told me, Jim, I can't get ahead in life because I didn't grow up in the right environment. I said, that's interesting, because the man who grew up down the street from you, same neighborhood, same challenges, just became a millionaire. So the difference is not the street. It's the story. Don't let your mouth become the biggest obstacle in your life. Your story is either a prison or a passport, and the words you choose decide which one it becomes. So let me leave you with a challenge. A small but powerful challenge. For the next 7 days, no excuses. None. Zip. Zero. Not even the good ones. Especially not the good ones. Replace every excuse with action. Every complaint with a question. Every limitation with a decision. And when the old stories start to whisper in your mind, remind them, that's not me anymore. That was the old version. I've moved on, because you have. You've decided to show up with truth, not lies. With clarity, not comfort. And the best part, you're not alone. Millions of people have dropped their excuses and picked up their future. You can too. Excuses sound best to the one who makes them, but the results go to the one who refuses to. So which one will you be? The language of the lazy. Watch what you say. Words. Simple things, right? But don't let their simplicity fool you. Words build worlds, and just as they can build your future, they can also build a wall between you and it. You see, the language you use is either your ladder or your leash. It's either lifting you up or it's tying you down. And more often than not, it's doing one or the other, whether you realize it or not. Now let me give it to you straight. Lazy people speak a certain way. They don't say, "I'll find a way." They say, "It's too hard." They don't say, "I'll learn." They say, "I'm just not good at that." They don't say, "Let's start." They say, "Let's wait." That's the language of the lazy. It's not always loud, but it's consistent. Not always aggressive, but always passive. You can hear it in their conversations, in their reasoning, in the way they answer opportunity. They speak in limitation. They speak in delay, and they speak in doubt. Let me give you a few common phrases, and if you catch yourself saying these, take it as a red flag. That's just the way I am. I've always been like this. It's not my fault. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't feel motivated today. Let me tell you something. Language is a habit, and if you want to change your results, you've got to change your vocabulary. You've got to speak like someone who's on a mission, not someone waiting for a miracle. Now, I'm not saying your words alone will move mountains, but I am saying this: if your words are weak, your actions will follow. So here's what I recommend. Starting today, raise your language. Speak like someone going somewhere. Speak like someone who takes responsibility. Speak like someone who's decided to stop being average. Start saying things like, "Let me figure this out. I'll get better with practice. What's the next step? This is hard, but I'm harder. I don't feel like it, but I'll do it anyway." That's the language of a builder, a leader, a finisher. You see, your brain listens to your mouth, and if you keep telling yourself you can't, you won't. If you keep saying you're tired, you'll feel exhausted. If you speak defeat long enough, you'll start living it. But reverse it, and amazing things start to happen. Start telling yourself, "I've got what it takes." Start saying, "Today is the day I show up like a professional." Start affirming action, and watch your life catch up with your language. Now listen, lazy language doesn't just hold you back. It attracts others who speak the same. And soon you're surrounded by people who are fluent in fear, fluent in excuses, fluent in procrastination. You need a new language, and you need new translators. So start by watching your words, especially the ones you say to yourself in silence. That inner dialogue. That's the script of your life. Rewrite it. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I used to say, "I'm not a morning person." Guess what? I was right. Every single time I said it. But then I realized it wasn't biology. It was belief. So I changed the script. I started saying, "I love starting early. It gives me a head start." And suddenly, my body started to agree. Why? Because words are not just sounds, they're instructions. Instructions your mind takes seriously. So let me challenge you right now. Go on a 24-hour language fast. For the next 24 hours, no negative phrases, no lazy expressions, no powerless words. And when you catch yourself saying something weak, correct it out loud, not just in thought. Speak strength. If you do this, and I mean really commit, you'll notice something powerful. You'll walk different, think different, act different. Because when you change your words, you change your world. Don't speak as the victim. Speak as the victor. Don't speak as the watcher. Speak as the worker. Don't speak to justify staying stuck. Speak to declare where you're going. Remember, the language of the lazy keeps you behind, but the language of the committed, that's the sound of forward motion. So what's your choice? Will you keep reciting the old excuses, or will you start speaking the life you were meant to live? Your future is listening. Who are you becoming while you excuse? Let me ask you something simple, but powerful. Who are you becoming while you excuse? Because every time you make an excuse, you don't just delay a task, you don't just miss a deadline, you don't just avoid discomfort. No, you're becoming someone. That's the scary part about excuses. They aren't just moments, they're decisions that shape identity. You see, you're not staying the same, you're always becoming, moment by moment, thought by thought, word by word. And every excuse you make is casting a vote for the person you'll become tomorrow. Say, "I'll do it later," enough times, and guess what? You become someone who never does it at all. Say, "I'm not good at that," enough times, and soon you're the person who never tries. Say, "I can," enough times, And one day you won't even remember how to believe you could. That's what excuses do. They chip away at your identity until all that's left is a shell of what could have been. Now I know, that sounds harsh. But listen, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here to help you wake up. Because once you see what excuses are costing you, not just in results, but in character, that's when real change begins. Let me tell you something. I learned the hard way. Excuses don't just hold you back. They mold you. They mold your habits. They mold your mindset. They mold your self-image. And here's the trick. They do it quietly. One excuse at a time. One skipped workout. One missed opportunity. One avoided conversation. One more I'm too tired. One more maybe later. And over time, you're not just behind in your goals. You're behind in who you were meant to become. I've met people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who told me, Jim, I don't recognize myself anymore. And you know what the cause usually was? Years of tiny excuses, tiny justifications, little delays, little lies. All adding up to a massive identity shift. Not overnight, but over time. Let me tell you something powerful, and I hope you write this down. Excuses are slow assassins of your potential. And the worst part, they don't take your life. They just make you live below it. Now here's the good news. If excuses can shape you, discipline can reshape you. If every excuse is a vote for a weaker version of you, then every disciplined act, no matter how small, is a vote for the stronger version. So let me ask you again, who are you becoming while you excuse? And who could you become if you stopped? If you replaced excuses with action? If you swapped laziness for consistency? If you chose responsibility instead of rationalization, who would you become? Because let me tell you, that version of you, he or she is already in there. Waiting, not for motivation, not for the perfect moment, just for you to stop defending the version that's holding you back. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. And if your standard is to excuse, then your result will always be regret. But if your standard is discipline, ownership, persistence, now you're not just chasing success, you're becoming the kind of person who creates it. That's what this chapter is really about. Not just the cost of excuses, but the character they build or destroy. So here's what I want you to do right now. 1. Write a letter to your future self. Not the excusing self. The disciplined, focused, high-standard version of you. Describe how they live, how they speak, how they move through challenges. 2. Then write a second letter to the version of you that made excuses for another year. What do they look like? How do they feel? What did they miss out on? And then make a choice today between those two versions. Because you're becoming someone either way, and the direction of that transformation, that's yours to decide. Let me leave you with this. Every excuse is an exit sign off the path of your potential. But every action, no matter how small, is a brick laid in the road to greatness. You can become someone who gets results, someone who keeps promises, someone who commands respect, especially from yourself. But you can't do that by excusing your way through life. You do that by deciding who you'll be, and then showing up every single day as that person, no matter what, because you are becoming. The question is, into what? Blame is the business of the broke. Let me tell you something I've learned over and over again. In business, in life, in success. Blame is the favorite currency of the broke. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's everywhere. And make no mistake, I'm not just talking about money here. I'm talking about people who are broke in spirit, broke in discipline, broke in drive. Because blame doesn't just bankrupt your finances, it bankrupts your future. You see, it feels good to blame. It feels good to point the finger, to say, it's not my fault, to declare, they did this to me. But let me give it to you straight. Every time you blame, you trade power for pity. Now, why would you do that? Why give up control just to feel a little better in the moment? Blame is a sugar rush for the weak. It gives you that sweet feeling of relief, but it crashes hard, because here's what blaming does. It delays your growth. It kills responsibility. It shuts the door on opportunity. Why? Because when it's their fault, you don't have to change. When it's the economy, you don't have to hustle. When it's your upbringing, you don't have to evolve. Blame is the lie you tell yourself to stay the same. Now I've been there. I'm not above it. I've blamed circumstances. I've blamed people. I've even blamed the weather. But you know what I realized? Every time I blamed, I stayed stuck. And every time I took ownership, even when it hurt, I moved forward. You want to know the turning point in your life? It's not when your situation changes. It's not when someone else fixes things. It's when you say, I own this, all of it. And because I own it, I can change it. That's the moment you start to grow. That's when you go from victim to victor. Let me give you an example. Two people lose their job. One says this company never appreciated me. The system's broken. People are unfair. And so they sit and sulk and wait. The other says, what did I miss? What can I learn? What can I create next? And they move and grow and win. Same event, different response. One blames, the other builds. One stays broke, the other breaks through. Now I know what you might be thinking, but Jim, sometimes it really is someone else's fault. And sure, sometimes you're right. But hear me, being right doesn't make you free. Being responsible does. Responsibility is how you take back control. It doesn't mean it's all your fault. It means you're not giving your future away to someone else's mistake. And that, my friend, is the mindset of the wealthy. Not just financially wealthy, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually wealthy. Because they know this. You don't rise by pointing fingers. You rise by rolling up your sleeves. So here's what I want you to do. 1. Make a blame list. Yes, really, write down everyone and everything you've been blaming. People, conditions, circumstances. 2. Next to each one, write this sentence. This may not be my fault, but my future depends on how I respond. You'll feel something shift when you do this. You'll feel the burden lift, not because it got lighter, but because you got stronger. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying it's necessary, because the longer you stay in blame, the longer you stay blind. Blind to options, blind to lessons, blind to your own power. The broke blame others. The wealthy take ownership. The weak shift responsibility. The strong accept it and act on it. So I'll leave you with this. Blame is the business of the broke, but ownership, that's the language of leaders. The day you stop blaming is the day you start building. And the moment you stop pointing fingers is the moment you can finally roll up your sleeves and do the work that matters. You want a better life? Don't wait for someone to hand it to you. Don't hope someone says sorry. Don't wish for easier times. Take ownership and get to work. Because success doesn't respond to blame. It responds to boldness. Discipline is the cure, not more motivation. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another speech, another quote, another goosebump moment. What you need is discipline. Because motivation is great. Don't get me wrong. I've made a living inspiring people. But let's be honest, motivation is a spark, and sparks burn out. Discipline, on the other hand, discipline is the engine. Discipline is the habit. Discipline is the decision you make when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Let me tell you what I've seen in my decades of teaching. The people who win in life are not the most motivated. They're the most consistent. They've trained themselves to do the thing, no matter the mood. They show up tired. They show up unsure. They show up imperfect, but they show up. You see, motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline says, do it anyway. Motivation fades with the weather. Discipline builds through storms. And here's the truth. If you rely on motivation to change your life, you'll always be waiting for the perfect feeling. But if you build the habit of discipline, you'll create your own momentum. Let me share something that changed my life. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. That's it. Not miracles, not massive talent, not unlimited energy. Simple disciplines, done daily. The discipline to get up early. The discipline to eat clean. The discipline to read 10 pages. The discipline to follow through. And let me tell you, discipline is hard until it becomes who you are. Once that shift happens, it's not a battle anymore. It's your identity. You want to feel motivated? Then do something disciplined. Action first. Emotion follows. Get the reps in. Do the work. Not just on the days you feel like it, but especially on the days you don't. Because that's the difference maker. That's where separation begins. Everyone's excited on day 1. Everyone's fired up when the sun's shining. But winners grind on day 10, day 30, day 100. Even when the applause is gone. Even when no one's watching. Why? Because they made a decision. And discipline protects that decision. Now let me give you a few truths about discipline. 1. Discipline creates freedom. Most people think it's the other way around. But when you're disciplined with your time, your health, your money, you get to live with freedom others only dream of. 2. Discipline builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that you can be counted on. And that self-trust, that's a secret weapon. People who trust themselves don't need permission. They take action. 3. Discipline multiplies results. Consistency compounds. What seems like a small habit today becomes a massive result over time. The problem is most people quit before the results show up. Not because they're incapable, but because they're undisciplined. So what's the cure? It's not another pump-up video. It's not waiting for one day. It's picking a small, meaningful discipline and doing it every day. No matter what. Start with one. Just one. 10 minutes of reading. 20 push-ups. 5 phone calls for your business. Journaling your goals every night. Small disciplines. Daily reps. 0 negotiations. Now hear this. Discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. But guess what? So is regret. So is underperforming. So is watching others live the life you were capable of. If you're going to feel pain either way, choose the pain that pays you. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of excuse, that one sticks around for years. So let me ask you, are you done waiting for motivation? Are you ready to become the kind of person who does the work, regardless of how they feel? If the answer is yes, then commit, right now, today, not just to your goal, but to the process that gets you there. Because the future doesn't belong to the most excited. It belongs to the most disciplined. Excuses and the company you keep. Let me share one of the most important lessons I've ever learned, and I learned it the hard way. Excuses love company, and they especially love your company. If you let them, you see the people around you, your friends, your colleagues, your circle, they aren't just influencing your choices. They're influencing your excuses. Let me put it like this. Show me your 5 closest companions, and I'll show you the flavor of your excuses. If you hang around people who justify everything, who say, it's too hard, it's not fair, no one gets ahead these days, then guess what? That language becomes your lullaby. You start singing the same sad song, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. Excuses become normal when you're surrounded by people who make them look reasonable, and that's dangerous. You weren't born average. You weren't designed for excuses. But if you spend enough time around people who are always explaining why they can't, you'll eventually stop believing that you can. Here's something to think about. Every excuse has an echo, and that echo usually comes from your environment. Now, I'm not saying you need to cut everyone out of your life, but I am saying you better be aware of who's influencing your inner voice. Let me give you some examples. You've got one group of people. I call them the justifiers. They justify everything. They justify laziness. They justify fear. They justify procrastination. Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. You work hard enough. Take it easy. There's always tomorrow. Sounds nice, right? But nice doesn't build dreams. Discomfort does. Then you've got the blamers. They blame the system. They blame their boss. They blame the government. They blame the economy. And after a while, if you're not careful, you'll start looking for who to blame, instead of looking in the mirror. And finally, you've got the settlers. They settled years ago. They talk about what they used to want, what they almost did. They wear comfort like a badge, and treat ambition like a disease. Let me ask you this. How often do you walk away from conversations more committed or more comfortable, more energized or more excused? Because who you talk to is shaping how you think, and how you think is shaping your results. Now here's the flip side, and it's beautiful. Surround yourself with the doers, the builders, the no-excuse crowd, and your life will change. Fast. You'll start to feel uncomfortable bringing excuses to the table, because they don't tolerate them. You'll start raising your standards just to keep up with the room, and that's good. That's exactly what you want. Let me tell you, I owe much of my success to one decision. Getting around people who were going places, not people who had it all figured out, but people who were moving, growing, learning, grinding. Their discipline rubbed off on me. Their ambition sparked mine. Their language became my language. That's the secret right there. Excuses are contagious, but so is excellence. So is responsibility. So is execution. So let me give you a challenge, a real one. Step 1, audit your environment. Write down the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then ask, are they moving forward? Are they growing? Are they challenging me to rise? Step 2, start upgrading your circle. Look for people who call you higher. Follow them. Learn from them. Serve them. Add value. And when you can, spend time with them. And if you say, Jim, I don't know anyone like that, then start with books, with podcasts, with this message. Let people who think bigger pour into your mind until you attract them into your life. Here's the truth. You don't just outgrow excuses, you outgrow environments that accept them. So maybe it's not just about stopping your excuses. Maybe it's about leaving the table where excuses are the main course. You were made for more than sitting around with people who are waiting for the right time. You were made to run with lions. You were made to build, to rise, to lead. But to do that, you have to get around others who are done making excuses and too busy making things happen. So let me leave you with this. If you're serious about growth, stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Who's influencing me?" Because excuses are a team sport, and so is success. Choose your team wisely. Replace excuses with standards. Let's get straight to it. Excuses exist where standards don't. If you don't have high standards, excuses will fill the gap. They show up like weeds in a garden you stop tending. You want to stop making excuses? You don't need more willpower. You don't need more reminders. You need better standards. Because here's what I've learned over and over again. Your life rises or falls to the level of your standards, not your goals, not your dreams. Your standards. Goals are great. Dreams are necessary. But without standards to anchor them, they drift. They become wishes. And excuses love wishes. Let me explain. See, a goal says, "I want to be fit." But a standard says, "I never miss more than 2 workouts in a row." A goal says, "I want to grow my income." A standard says, "I invest 10% of every dollar I earn." A goal says, "I want better relationships." A standard says, "I show up honest, present, and dependable." You see the difference? Excuses are vague. Standards are specific. Excuses are reactive. Standards are proactive. Excuses ask, "Why is this so hard?" Standards declare, "This is just what I do." That's the shift. When you have a standard, a non-negotiable, there's no room left for debating, justifying, or explaining. There's no internal argument, no tug of war between should I and maybe tomorrow. You've decided, you've drawn a line. You've said to yourself, "This is who I am now." And that, my friend, is where real transformation begins. Let me tell you something important. Excuses are born from unclear identity. When you don't know who you are, you'll entertain every justification. But when you know who you are, when you say, "I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start. I'm the kind of person who keeps their word," then everything else falls into place. You don't need to feel motivated. You just act according to your identity. And that identity is built and reinforced by your standards. Now let me ask you, what are your current standards? I don't mean the ones you wish you had. I mean the ones you live by, daily. Because whether you realize it or not, you already have standards. They're just not always intentional. If you hit snooze 3 times every morning, that's a standard. If you always run late, that's a standard. If you eat fast food 5 times a week, that's a standard. You get what you tolerate, not what you fantasize about, what you tolerate. So let's flip the script, right now. Step 1, choose one area of your life that needs an upgrade. Maybe it's your health, your finances, your discipline, your relationships. Step 2, set a new standard. Something small but firm. Something you can live by. Not just talk about. Examples, I wake up before 6:30 a.m., no matter what. I write down my goals every single day. I don't spend more than I earn, ever. I move my body for 30 minutes a day. No excuses. Write it, say it, live it. Step 3, protect that standard. Because let me tell you, the moment you raise your standard, life will test it. Your schedule will test it. Your friends will test it. Your old self will test it. But hold the line. Because here's the reward. When you follow through on a standard, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, you become a person you respect. And that self-respect, that's what silences excuses. That's what fuels consistency. That's what builds real, sustainable confidence. So the next time you're tempted to say, "I'm too tired," replace it with, "That's not who I am anymore." Replace "It's just one time" with, "This is my standard. I don't break it," and watch your life rise. Not in a flash, but in a steady climb. Because the truth is, you don't get what you wish for. You get what you stand for. Excuses will always be available, but so will excellence. So will consistency. So will integrity. And the choice, every day, is yours. Raise your standards. Lower your excuses. Watch your life transform. Excuses can't compete with purpose. Let me tell you something you already know. Deep down, when you're driven by purpose, excuses don't stand a chance. They show up. Sure, they knock on the door, try to whisper in your ear, "I'm tired, it's not the right time, I'm not ready." But when purpose answers the door, excuses walk away. Every time. Because excuses are weak. They're built on emotion, fear, comfort, but purpose is strong. It's built on conviction, on meaning, on fire. Let me ask you, what happens when someone really knows why they're doing something? They find a way. They don't need a cheerleader. They don't need a sunny forecast. They don't need every star to align. They've got something more powerful than motivation. They've got meaning. And here's the truth, my friend. Purpose makes the pain worth it. Without purpose, every struggle feels heavy. Every obstacle feels unfair. Every task feels like a burden. But with purpose, even the hard things feel like progress. Even the pain has a reason. Even the discipline starts to feel like freedom. You don't quit when you're tired. You rest, and then return. You don't stop when you're uncomfortable. You grow through it. You don't listen to the excuses. You listen to the mission. That's the difference. Now let's get practical. Why do excuses dominate your decisions? Because in the absence of purpose, comfort becomes the compass. You start choosing what feels easy over what leads to growth. But when your life is aligned with something bigger than you, excuses lose their grip. So let me ask you, what's your purpose? Not your job, not your income target, not your to-do list, your real purpose. Why do you wake up in the morning? What kind of life are you building? Who are you trying to become? Who are you trying to serve? Because if you don't answer those questions, excuses will. They'll tell you what your life is about. It's about comfort. It's about protection. It's about staying small. But once you clarify your purpose, everything changes. Purpose creates urgency. Purpose creates resilience. Purpose creates clarity. And clarity kills excuses. Let me tell you, I've seen people with very little talent outwork and outlast geniuses just because they had a reason to. I've seen mothers start businesses with zero background, zero experience, zero support, but they had a purpose to give their kids a better life. I've seen people drop excuses overnight when purpose showed up. Purpose doesn't need perfect conditions. It just needs commitment. So here's what I want you to do. Step 1. Write a why statement. One sentence, one reason, one purpose that will fuel your actions when motivation fades. Examples: I show up because my kids are watching. I grind because I'm breaking generational patterns. I build because I refuse to die with potential still inside me. Don't just think it. Write it. Speak it. Own it. Step 2. Connect your actions to that purpose. Going to the gym. It's not just fitness. It's energy to fulfill your mission. Reading a book. It's not just knowledge. It's sharpening your mind for the life you're creating. Saving money. It's not just discipline. It's building options for a purpose-driven future. You see, purpose turns tasks into tools. It turns effort into investment. It turns resistance into fuel. Now here's the reality. Even with purpose, excuses will still try to creep in. But the difference is, you'll recognize them for what they are. A distraction, a delay, a detour you no longer have time for. Because you've got places to be, people to impact, a legacy to build. Purpose doesn't just silence excuses. It replaces them. It says, I don't care how I feel. I care about what I'm building. It says, comfort is tempting, but calling is louder. Let me leave you with this. You can live a life of comfort, or you can live a life of purpose. But you can't live both. So which will you choose? Because excuses can't survive in the presence of purpose. And when you find that purpose, really find it, you'll stop negotiating with your old self, and start building the life your future self will thank you for. The mirror test. What if you stopped lying to yourself? Stand in front of the mirror, not just to fix your hair, not just to check your shirt. I mean, really stand there, look into your own eyes, and ask this question, maybe for the first time in a long time. Am I being honest with myself? Not am I doing okay? Not do others think I'm doing fine? But honest, because my friend, the most dangerous lies aren't the ones you tell the world. They're the ones you whisper to yourself, quietly, over time. I'm trying my best. I'll change when things slow down. I'm just not built like those other people. Sounds innocent, doesn't it? But every one of those phrases is a thread in the web that's keeping you stuck. If you want real change, you don't need more motivation. You need a mirror, a moment of truth. Because the mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't flatter. It reflects. And when you finally decide to face what's real, that's when transformation begins. Let me tell you something that most won't. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't grow if you won't admit where you're falling short. You can't rise if you won't confess how long you've been sitting. And you certainly can't lead a powerful life while lying to the person staring back at you. Now I get it. Lying to yourself feels safe. It cushions the blow. It keeps the shame at bay. But here's the trade-off. Comfort today, regret tomorrow. And let me tell you, regret is the heaviest weight you'll ever carry. So what's the alternative? Radical honesty. That's right. The kind of honesty that stings. The kind that humbles you. The kind that forces you to take ownership instead of offering another excuse. Let me ask you, have you really been doing your best? Have you been avoiding hard conversations? Have you been holding back when you know you've got more inside you? Have you been pretending to be stuck when deep down, you just haven't committed? These are hard questions, but they're the right questions, because honesty is the gateway. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. And until you cross it, you'll stay in the land of almost disciplined, almost confident, almost fulfilled. But almost doesn't build a legacy. Almost doesn't inspire your family. Almost doesn't leave a mark. So what if, starting today, you stopped lying? What if you looked in the mirror and said, I haven't been giving it my all, but that changes today. I've made too many excuses, but I'm done running from the truth. I've let comfort hold me hostage, but now I'm taking the wheel. What if you started living like the person you pretend to be? Because here's the real question, and I want you to hear it in my voice. What would your life look like if you got fully honest with yourself? Not 80%, not 95%, 100%. Truth, raw and real. You'd probably make different choices. You'd probably stop tolerating certain habits. You'd probably raise your standards immediately. And most of all, you'd finally start trusting yourself again, because that's the reward of honesty. It gives you back you. When you stop hiding, you start healing. When you stop pretending, you start progressing. So here's your challenge, your mirror test. Step 1. Look yourself in the eye today. Not metaphorically, literally. Stand in front of the mirror. No phone, no distractions. Ask, where am I lying to myself? And what am I pretending not to know? Write down what comes up. Don't edit. Don't spin it. Just face it. Step 2. Write a new declaration. Something like, from this moment forward, I choose truth over comfort. I won't lie to myself to feel better. I'll level up to get better. My standards are rising because I'm no longer hiding. Say it out loud. Own it. Make it yours. This may be the most important step in your journey, because once you stop lying to yourself, you remove the last barrier between you and your potential. No more games. No more pretending. No more acting like it's fine when you know it's not. Just you and the truth and a future that finally feels aligned. The mirror is waiting. What will you say? Burn the excuse book. Write a new story. So here we are. We've talked about the lies. We've faced the excuses. We've uncovered the truth, hiding behind delay, fear, and justification. Now there's only one thing left to do. Burn the excuse book. That little journal you've been keeping in your mind, full of reasons, rationalizations, and stories. Burn it. Toss the pages into the fire of your new commitment. Let it go, because that book, that history of hesitation, it's not who you are. It's who you used to be. The one who kept saying, I don't have time. I'll start Monday. I'm not built for this. That version of you is done. They had their season. They served their lesson. But now, you've outgrown them. You see, most people live their entire lives editing an old story. A story full of limitation, full of doubt, full of safe decisions. They tweak it here, soften it there, but it's still the same story. What you've done in this journey is different. You've decided to stop editing the excuse book and write a new one. A story of ownership, a story of clarity, a story of fire and focus. You're not just reacting anymore, you're responding. You're not negotiating with fear, you're moving anyway. You're not telling yourself lies, you're living in truth. And let me tell you, the world needs this version of you. Your family needs this version of you. You need this version of you. The version who shows up, even when it's hard. The version who follows through, even when no one's watching. The version who doesn't wait for perfect, but moves with purpose. Here's what I want you to remember as you close this chapter of your life. Excuses don't protect your future. They poison it. Every excuse you make is a withdrawal from the bank of your potential, and every act of discipline is a deposit. So from here on out, choose deposits. Stack the days, stack the habits, Stack the small wins. And when the voice comes, and it will come, that says skip today, you're tired, it won't matter. You smile, you nod, and you say that's from the old story. I'm writing a new one now, because you've burned the excuse book. You've left behind the language of the lazy. You've stopped pointing fingers. You've raised your standards. You've chosen purpose over pity. And you've looked in the mirror and told yourself the truth. And from here, from this moment, your story is in your hands. So go write it, not with words, but with actions. Write it with the early mornings, the hard conversations, the daily disciplines, the uncomfortable growth. Write it with consistency, integrity, and intention. And one day, not far from now, you'll look back, not with regret, but with pride, because you'll know, you didn't wait for change. You became the change. You didn't make excuses. You made progress. And that is the story worth telling. So close the old book, set it down, and pick up the pen. The rest of your life is unwritten. Write something worth reading.